Hey guys, Gotham Geek Girl here, and I'm super excited. I am joined by Fernando Dagnino. He is the creator and writer of Smart Girl, a new series from Titan Comics. The hardcover will be coming out soon. Fernando is an artist that has drawn for series such as Superman, Wonder Woman, Justice League, Tarzan and the Planet of the Apes. He is currently on Blade Runner, and he also has his creator-owned series. Smart Girl is a new graphic novel from Titan Comics. It's a stunning story about a rogue android who has become self-aware and discovers what it means to be alive. I'm really enjoying this series. It's pretty
Are you?
dark. I like the story about Yuki because I find it very interesting that our protagonist is a droid. So I found that different because like typically we don't root for the robots. So I kind of like that you made her the focus and we're like kind of rooting for her. So I think that fans of Detroit Become Human and Westworld will definitely love this series. Super excited. So I'm gonna have you tell us a little bit about it. So what can you tell us about Yuki, aka Scrappy, and what made you decide to make an android the protagonist?
Well, the origin is like a short story I wrote like more than 5 years ago about mainly the theme was like the obsolescence and how are we now we change like from one smartphone to the other and we throw them away, then we get a new one, and how that's is it kind of a base to our human relations, to how we're like dealing with human relations in the same manner sometimes that we're dealing with objects. So the story started with a short story about a genoid, an android that becomes old. It started malfunction, and the owner decides like to change it for a new model. So that was a really short story, and I really loved the idea. I thought it was very complex. It could be like unfold into a whole universe of an elite in the future that has these smart girls and smart boys, like just like we have smartphones. And what happened if one of them, they really, after like 2 years of service as, they're kind of replicants. They work as bodyguards, escorts. They even have like a emotional bondage, like a human relation. They're lovers, they're assistants. So if one grows old and they want to change it, and what would be the reaction of this conscious, like human type android or genoid? So the story is based on this kind of premise, and that's where it develops from.
Yeah, it was super interesting like to see that like she was only like 2 years old and already it's like, I need a new machine, you're trash, you're nothing. And it's like crazy because like they're programmed to like love their master and like basically like do all these things to like as basically like slave work. And it's kind of crazy how like, we wouldn't think to care about robots, but you actually made us feel for them. Like, wow, like that's pretty messed up what they do. So what are some of your influences for creating this cybernetic world? And like, I know like in the story, you have a lot of like companies that kind of compete and they want to have like the newest, more advanced, or how did you come up with this idea?
Well, I mean, the story of Smart Girl pays, of course, lots of homages to, for example, to Blade Runner, mainly to Blade Runner, also to Alita, also to Ghost in the Shell. It's a homage to cyberpunk stories. And of course, mainly Blade Runner, which is a series I am paradoxically working in after several years. So it deals with the fact that we have these replicant sort of androids and genoids, sort of robots that are like, like they're almost conscious. They're conscious, and their life is really have a short span. So it really asks lots of existentialist questions, which I really fell in love with when I first saw the first movie. And of course, it pays tribute to all this influence, Philip K. Dick, when it Ghost in the Shell, and the philosophical background of this sort of speculative sci-fi. I'm really very fond of.
And I guess that brings me to another one of my questions. Since you also work on Blade Runner, have you ever come up with an idea for that series that you thought would work better for Smart Girl or vice versa? Also, could the worlds ever collide?
They're quite interrelated. Actually, I started Smart Girl like 4 years ago, and actually that's when I got in touch with Titan. So I like to think that it's my work in Smart Girl like got me the gig, because of course, I pay an evident tribute to the Blade Runner world, and all the cyberpunk backgrounds, all the machinery. I think it's something that called the attraction of Titan guys. But in Blade Runner Origins, I'm just doing the art. I mean, I wouldn't really try to do anything, and so it's, I mean, any type of script there, because they're doing it really well. I mean, Mello Brown and Perkins and Mike Johnson, they're doing an amazing work. So I mean, I'm doing my own thing. And they're very related, but I mean, maybe the ideas I would like to propose for Blade Runner, I mean, before starting my work in the series, are the ones I proposed in Smart-Girl. I mean, maybe, for example, as regards the movie, I think the character of Rachel, I mean, for me, it was a really very interesting character, and it wasn't really very much, I mean, touched in the movie. It's more about Decker, and I think one of the things I've tried with Yuki and with Smart-Girl is to put the highlight, the focus on a similar sort of Rachel type of character, and what would be like her feelings or her life. What would be of her? I mean, if we were to deal more with her life.
And were there any like limitations that you could do with these series, or anything that you couldn't really do, or do you have kind of complete creative control?
In this case, it's I mean, a hyper personal project. I just did like for myself, and of course, then afterwards, it started how I told you, like 4 years ago. The first publisher was a French publisher, Reflections, Edition Reflexion, and then I found another publisher in Spain. So it was a totally personal project. I mean, of course, I mean, I've been working for comics for many years, so I knew the sort of the language, and I knew kind of the public and the target I was aiming to. But I mean, I had no limitations. Actually, I was almost the editor myself. I edited myself, so there were no limitations.
That's great. Yeah, because you really get to delve into like the whole, I guess, human mind and android mind, kind of like how humans could be dark and do these evil things just as like the robots do, and kind of how the robots feel, also how the humans feel that droids are taking over the world, and like it's really cool to get into that.
Thank you.
And why did you decide to make the series black and white?
Well, I mean, to be honest, it wasn't really it was kind of a limitation, because it was my personal project. It took me like, I mean, two years, I think. I mean, maybe some more for the script, but 2 years I was kind of betting everything on it. So in the meantime, I had to take another project for France, a comic called The Agent, and some commission work. So it was mainly like a suicide sort of project. So if I had to put some color, that would be impossible. So I had it planned from the beginning that it would be a project in black and white. So I mean, I did similar things before, for example, in Valiant, with doing the grayscales and over the black and white line. And I thought it would be, I mean, a good idea. I mean, I really love black and white comics. I think they really, one thing I love about comics is that the lack of, for example, sometimes color, the lack of audio, the lack of movement, it provides for a creative reading. So whenever you're reading, I mean, you just complete like the film you're just watching and reading, you complete it. And actually, some of the comic books I read in black and white, I do remember them in color. I don't know why. I mean, I put the color myself. So I think what it starts as a limitation for me. It's just an open space for the reader to create their own palette of colors.
I like that. And you've previously done work exclusively for DC, such as art for Superman, Supergirl, Teen Titans, Justice League, Suicide Squad, and more. When did you decide that you wanted to create your own comics?
I mean, I've always, I mean, loved to write ever since I was a kid. And actually, I mean, 10 years ago, I wrote my first kind of graphic novel, but for the young audiences. It's called Cassandra. And then, of course, afterwards, I started, I mean, with DC Comics as a exclusive artist. And that went for 6 years. So, I mean, I was really happy there. But I've always had this kind of willing to go again and write my own stories. Of course, I went on writing them, but of course, with little time. So there came a time when I decided to stop. I mean, because, you know, whenever you're like working on a regular series and you end up like, I don't know, sometimes 10, 2 in the morning, it's really hard like to go and find the energy to go with your own project. So, I mean, to be, I mean, realistic, I knew I had to, I mean, stop everything and bet on this personal project. And then from there on, maybe other doors would open. and that's what has happened. So yeah, I had to stop everything. I mean, I really love drawing. I had great fun in DC Comics, but I mean, you know, I was my final aim was to write and draw my own stories. So I had to bet on it, really.
That's great, because now you really get to do both, like on your own terms. And you are also currently on, writing futuristic series. What are some of your favorite sci-fi books, movies, and TV shows?
Well, I mean, of course, now, I mean, I'm gonna be true to my story. So yes, I mean, most of them are cyberpunk. In this case, I love many sorts of, I mean, sci-fi movies. I don't know, of course. I mean, I just saw, for example, Dune the other day, which I'm a big fan of the first movie. And I mean, of course, yeah, but I mean, I'm a big fan of Philip K. Dick. I'm a big of Ursula K. Le Guin. I'm a big fan. For example, there's lots of influence in Smuggle from Donna J. Haraway, the Cyber Manifesto, which is more philosophy, but it's kind of deals kind of with what the cyborg is, and that's very interesting too. And of course, I mean, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, so all those movies were really marked my time. I'm a big fan of Star Wars too. I mean, especially of the original movies. And yes, I mean, it's hard to I mean to put an end to the influence. I mean, there are, I mean, the ones I mentioned, and also the I'm not quite into manga, but I'm really fond of the anime of Alita, Ghost in the Shell, Akira. I'm a big fan of Akira too. And all the other lesser known, I mean, cyberpunk stories in the Japanese manga. And I don't know. I mean, there's also some I think superhero sci-fi influence. I mean, in the comic books, especially in the style of the art, I think. But yeah, there are many influences. I mean, it's hard to tell one especially from the other.
And is this your last entry for Smart Girl? Will there be more graphic novels or any maybe one-offs, continuations?
I would like to continue it. I mean, as I told you, that the first project was really suicidal. I would have to, I mean, consider the ways in which I would do the following volume. But one thing I'm really interested in is also developing like the world in which the story takes place. I mean, the world of Oxio City, all the complexity of the what you mentioned. I mean, putting the focus on the androids, and it's one thing I'm actually right now. I'm writing like short stories on a. It's like the same city in which Smart Girl takes place, but maybe taking it some years into the future. And I mean, just as our premise, like what would the androids do? I mean, we've also all seen many stories in which the androids are at war with humanity, and there's the danger, and they win sometimes. But I'm really interested in knowing what, I mean, if they win the war against the humans, what sort of a world will they build? I mean, how will they feel without the human masters? Which it's a theme that it's touched in Smart Girl, but briefly, like the relation of parent-like relation between humans and robots and cyborgs. But what would they do if they got no parents? If the parents are not there and now they're free to create their own world? What sort of a world? I mean, will they miss humans? Will they replicate the behavior? I mean, will they be free? I don't know. That's really interesting now. I mean, that's what I want to. Where the stories want to, I mean, take place. The ones I'm writing now.
Yeah, I would definitely love to see more of that, like the psyche of the robots, the droids, and then how humans basically created their own monster. What's the saying?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And can you tell us a little bit more about like did I say that correctly? Gargona?
Yes. I mean, the name is the name of the Medusa, the Greek like a monster from Greek mythology. And yes, that's kind of the in this future they've kind of designed this I mean, artificial intelligence called Schemata, and I try to emulate like the origins of internet, because in the beginning, I mean, the way this I mean artificial intelligence started out, there were like many of them. They were free. They were starting like creating like a new type of society of free exchange of culture, of services. And then they realized that there was too much freedom going on the web. So the great corporations, they built this one strong monopolistic sort of schemata. It's called Gorgona, and it started like, I mean, devouring the others and locking their intelligence. So it's kind of going from a diverse society, multiple schematas. Maybe some of them are uploading minds of animals, or really, I mean, different sorts of approaches to artificial intelligence, to go into this unique monolithic sort of corporate, I mean, a schemata that controls everything. And it's like, of course, it would be a mixture between, I don't know, these great, I mean, internet companies we all know, and a huge sort of Siri-like, I mean, sentient being that controls from a distance, but it controls your life. She's there constantly. It's an intelligence that it's helping you out. It's in your professional life, personal life, domestic, I mean, life. And it's kind of a scary, I mean, idea that we're very close to that, actually. So I'm just pushing it a little bit forward. I mean, it's nothing I'm inventing, and it's just giving it like the more of a monstrous aspect.
Yeah, Black Mirror, what's that other one?
Yeah.
Love, Death and Robots. All these are like, I'm not ready for a world like that.
Yes, I mean, they're giving us really lots of material to do sci-fi these
Yeah,
days.
definitely. I was gonna say, could you maybe tell us a little bit about Hero without giving away too many spoilers, or?
About Hero is a master, the owner of the main protagonist, of Yuki, and he's I mean, high tech CEO of a company that creates androids and genoids, and he's involved in a project, and he has a really tight deadline, so he needs, I mean, to be efficient. In this same moment, his smart girl Yuki, she starts to malfunction. So he's the one who decides that he has to change to another model to upgrade the unit. The thing is, we're gonna, how could I describe without spoiling it? I mean, the first thing we know about Hero is that he's a stupid guy. He's arrogant. He's a bigot. He's stupid. He doesn't like, for example, people with prostheses, because with implanted, I mean, parts in the body. And then, I mean, as the story unfolds, I don't like stories in which, I mean, you know, the villain is kind of very, very bad, and it's all about black and white. So all I can say is that as the story unfolds, we're going to realize maybe the black areas, the dark areas in the story are not as dark, or maybe they have an explanation for the darkness, just as we all have. I mean, whenever we meet someone and we just make a judgment on that person, I mean, it's black and white. It's like, I mean, like that, it's taxative. But as we go, I mean, if we get to know the person, we will deepen and get a profound knowledge, and maybe we kind of empathize and know, I mean, and explain why this person is the way he is. So I think that's the process we're gonna I mean, go with Hero.
And can you tell us about your second creator-owned series, Winter Queen, or any other projects that you're working on?
Yes, I mean, right now I'm working on Winter Queen in parallel with Blade Runner Origins, and this is also a creator-owned project I'm doing for Glénat. It's a French publisher, and this is a totally different story. This is kind of a thriller that, I mean, deals with dark magic. And it's also, I mean, I like, of course, just as I like sci-fi, I like fantasy, I like magic, but just as it happens in Smart Girl, what really, I mean, really attracts me about the story is the personal relations, is the character, the emotional approach to the story. So we also have it's a feminine character, but it kind of co-stars in the series with a voodoo man from New Orleans. Who thinks he's a fake magician. He's disappointed with himself. And on the other hand, I mean, Winter Queen, she's a kind of a time traveler. She's not actually. It starts with a real story. It's Elizabeth Stewart. she was a queen and an English princess, the daughter of Jack James I. So I mean, the story starts from a historical point of view, and then of course it evolves into fantasy. And I wanted to have a character that has, I mean, it's a very sort of Hulk sort of character. She has like two sides, a really cold and rational one, but really controlling the emotions. And then there's another side of her character that's kind of a demoness that really it's the opposite. She's emotional, she's obscene, she's wild. So I like to work in the contrast and how these two characters kind of interact, and how one is afraid of the other, and because one is repression and the other one is liberation. So how they manage to get to a point in between. So for the character and the story to evolve and to achieve the final purpose of the story.
And when should we be expecting these?
I think that will be for next year, because I'm still on the first chapter. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. And that's going to be written and illustrated by you as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. This one I'm doing it in watercolor. Like the graphic treatment is different. It would be like it's ink and watercolor.
Oh, very nice.
Mm-hmm.
And you also write children's books. Do you have any preference, or do you enjoy writing both of the same? And how do you kind of turn off children's mode and get back into adult mode and like darkness and magic?
The thing is, I mean, to be honest, I mean, the book I wrote, Cassandra, of course, it was like I mean, aimed for a young audience. I mean, of course, it fulfilled the. I mean, it can be read if you're like in like pre-adolescent, but I don't think I was really. I mean, it has another reading, of course. I mean, I think if you're a grown up, you get another reading. So I don't think I really have the skills to write for kids. I mean, I was just doing it. I mean, of course, it has one reading for it's not kids for young audiences. But some characters, I mean, one thing I liked as a kid, for example, is, I mean, stories that wouldn't treat me as if I was stupid. And actually, my curiosity was, I mean, made me like stories which I didn't completely understand, because I wanted to ask more. It made me ask questions. So I think I just went for that goal. I mean, story that, I mean, of course, the characters are youngsters, and it deals with things that, I mean, with having your own friends and then losing them, and then being yourself in spite of what the friends say, and even if it means like being on your own. I mean, sometimes the payment for the thing you have to pay for to be yourself is that you lose like social acceptance. No, so those issues are there, but the rest of the world, of the magical world, some of the characters are really kind of really adult. So, but of course, it's like the world of grown-ups and the world of young people. I think they collide. I don't know if I did it, if I did a good job, but that was my aim.
Cute. And anything else you want to tell us that you're, maybe planning, or other ideas you have, or anything else you can share about SmartGirl, or anything we didn't talk about?
About Smart, I'm really, for the moment, I'm really super excited that it's going to be published by Titan, and the fact that it's, it took me like really, this was kind of as I told you, kind of an enterprise I did. So, it took me a while to get it published in English, especially, in French it was okay. I really had good reception in Spain too, but in English, of course, I'm not a native English speaker. I wrote it in English, but with some help. And then, of course, I got help from the guys in Titan. They got it revised. So, and I know it's not very common for example, just as there are many artists in the American market, there aren't as many writers. Mm-hmm. So I think that's another boundary to be broken. I believe that these boundaries are there to be broken. I appreciate all the American public and public in the UK, how they receive, for example, artists from other parts of the world. And then I think that the next barrier, the next frontier is to received like new approaches from different cultures, different languages, of course, translated and everything. But that's kind of it's a really important challenge for me.
Do you have any advice for any new creators or promising new writers?
I think, I mean, you know, I have many friends that work in comic books, and when you try to give an advice, I think you're thinking about your own career and how it evolved. But then you see the careers of other people's, and they are so different, so diverse. I mean, that I got people that came from, I mean, fine arts. Others, I come from literature. Others come from working as a I don't know, like on the construction field. So I don't think there's just one way of getting into comics. There are thousands. The maybe the advice would refer like to the general, I mean, issues, like for example, perseverance. I mean, you're gonna get like rejected many times, and I think the difference the difference is when you go on, when you really have to be a little bit stubborn, but then you have to, of course, revise your own skills, and maybe you have to, of course, you have to improve constantly, practice constantly. But I mean, that's the thing, we love so much this, that just saying to the people, I mean, you have to practice. We all practice because we love what we do. So there's no need for that. It's more about, I mean, overcoming rejection, and then finding the teaching in rejection and going on. And then it's about finding the proper time for you, the proper time for the editor, in that case, for the series, and then matching both things. And it will come. It will come. And being true to yourself too, because I mean, more and more, I mean, especially in the American market, they used to have like a very closed style, but that was maybe in the 90s or in the 80s, but not anymore. Now they're accepting different sort of, I mean, graphic styles, different sort of approaches. So some people, maybe back then, years ago, they tried to modify their style so as to fit the superhero market, for example, or any sort of fixed style. Nowadays, it's so open. So you just have to be true to yourself, true to what you feel you want to draw and transmit, and you will find the correct channel in no time, I think.
That's interesting. That's very true, because now when you look at comics, you see a lot of different influences. Like you'll see some like anime manga kind of style, yeah. And you'll see like more like, I guess, like you said, like watercolor. You'll see some kind of more like graphic design looking art. You'll see some more digital looking. So that is an interesting point, I guess, that people could try to stay true to themselves, and still try to get into it.
Yeah.
But it looks like we're almost up out of time. But anything else you want to throw out there, or?
No, I think it was almost that. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, thank you. Yes. Thank you. Well, thanks for the interview. Thanks for the invitation.
Peace.